Okay, just about ready. Think so? You have live? You just don't see it, Andrea?
Yeah, I just take it to get.
So do you mind if I go ahead and get started?
Yeah, you can go ahead and get started.
Okay, great. All right, everybody, I'd like to call the June 18th meeting to order. And if you would join me in a salute to the flag. Those of us in town hall will stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I think we're going to pass on approving the minutes, correct? I did not see a copy of the minutes, so I guess we will do that in our subsequent meeting.
Oh, I emailed them.
Oh, I didn't see them, and so I haven't read them, sorry. Let's just postpone that until the next one. Sorry about that. I didn't see them, and maybe Kevin didn't either because he didn't get any emails. All right, we'll vote on those, and the next time, if everybody would take a look at them and read them, we can approve them in our next meeting. For the town supervisor's report, as always, I've got the cash flow that everybody has a copy of, and this cash flow report is for the first time ever, we have a negative amount of cash flow in the month of May. So in 2019, we averaged monthly revenue in the amount of about $158,000 to $159,000 a month. And in May, we refunded $105,540 in recreation department fees. So we were negative by about $89,000, first time ever. Total refunds to date for all the recreation programs, meaning the after school program, in addition to all those camp programs, we went back and we refunded after school, which went out today, and one of the programs that was being offered in the evening. So total refunds to date are $111,062. And that's 100% of those that we're aware of. I think that we've cleaned up all the programs that people had signed up for, and we're good. But that was a big chunk to go out in 1 month between last month and then finished up this month. Total cash balances at the end of May were $3,179,920 in the general fund and $933,159 in the highway fund. Town tax penalties are a little over 9,000, which is a lot more than they started out. So that's surprising. And that obviously is revenue to the town, but the remaining uncollected taxes have been turned over to the county as of June 1st. To date, we are spending about $12,000 in unemployment insurance payouts, and we're expecting more. So I'll keep you posted on those, but those numbers have gotten high. As you all know, that as a municipality, we self-insure for unemployment insurance, and so, which is the standard way for us. And so you kind of pay as you go. So right now we're over 12,000 and more coming. Consistent with our practice, the councilmen have all received the list of the warrants, cash receipts report, the full escrow report, including, there's several pages attached to that, the building department report, and a list of all the deposits made in both the general fund and the highway fund, which obviously weren't that many this month. I have to say, we've been monitoring the expenses every month. The only money we're spending is money that we have to spend. So we're being very, very cautious. But interestingly enough, I mean, we have to buy some things like plexiglass and hand sanitizer equipment, or we're trying to get stations, which we have been unable to find because about 8 different manufacturers are out of them. But if not, we'll have to create our own. But anyway, in order to reopen. And we're planning on reopening July 1. So we have to have everything in place by then. So that's the money that we're spending. And if we get up to at least $3,300, we'll get a reimbursement from FEMA. So we'll keep you posted on that. So as far as town updates go, I will say that those are about all that I have for financials. It doesn't, you know, I had told you at an earlier meeting that we could lose as much as $500,000 by the end of the year. And we've figured out how we can cut from our expenses, and we've recovered over 300,000. But that means there's a difference there. And depending on what happens for the rest of the year, we'll either have to pull from fund balance, which nobody should do, because you should cut your expenses to match your lack of revenue, preferably. But if we just find that we can't do that, then we may end up in the red, and I'll keep you posted. Maybe some things will, as everybody opens up, we might see that we are making some money in some of the programs, and we're allowed to hold things again, and it might change things. So anyway, we're being as cautious and as tight as we can, but we'll look at it every month. From a town perspective, outside of town hall, the Iron Furnace Pay It Forward program has been working out really well. They're now up to fixing 30 meals, I heard today, 2 times weekly on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it's interesting, the program is different from Millbrook. We are, Andrea and myself and our tax collector, Kathy Wellman, and Holly and Ed Harvey have volunteered, and anybody, you know, and the people from the Iron Furnace, 2 of them, Russ Nichols and Kelly. Must be Murphy, Kelly Murphy. Anyway, so she and all of us get together on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we start delivering meals to mostly seniors, mostly people that are ill and that are housebound. And I have to say, it's been really well received. If anybody knows or has a neighbor that could benefit, that's housebound and could use these meals, these warm meals twice a week, please let us know here at Town Hall, or call the Iron Furnace and speak with Maura, and she'll put your name down, and we coordinate twice a week. Anyway, I think it's a great program. It's been running really well, and it may run through the end of the summer. I don't know how long they'll do it, but certainly people need it. Good news, we want to make sure all the residents in the town of Unionville know that we won the Article 78, or the lawsuit that the town of Beekman filed against us over the cell tower. Their case was dismissed and all their assertions were denied. So that was actually good news. And the judge found that the town of Unionville and the town board had done everything correctly. So that made us feel good, because we thought our procedures were in good shape. There are some county updates I wanted to make sure that I shared with you, because some of them, I mean, the county communicates unbelievably well, it seems to me. You guys are getting all these things. I don't want to over and double up with, that's why you haven't gotten a Unionville mail recently, because the county's communicating so much. But there are a couple of things that I want to make sure people do understand. And one is that we're going to enter phase 3 on Tuesday, June 23rd. Leagues, not professional, but adult and children leagues that compete will be competing on July 6th, which is phase 4. But starting on Tuesday, June 23rd, those groups can start practicing, as long as they follow all the standard protocols. So that's really good, because some of the baseball teams and things aren't aware that they can do that. So that was good news. Practice starting next Tuesday, but be very cautious. Everybody's got to be cautious, because we don't want to have the governor shut us down for any reason once we get going again. But phase 3 is opening up next Tuesday. And that means indoor seating at restaurants, which is great, at 50% capacity. We can have food trucks and concession stands again, and all the personal care businesses like nails and massage therapy and all that stuff can open up again. But they've got to go on the business website, the Duchess website, and go through it's actually the New York Forward website, and they've got to look at all the guidance for their respective businesses, and they have to read and send in an email affirming that they read the guidelines. So that if there ever is a complaint about them and the state looks them up, it shows that they read their guidelines and they affirmed them. So please, businesses, go on New York Forward and follow those instructions. Garage sales are also permitted, which I thought was fascinating. 10-person rule. I'm sure there were a lot of pent-up demand there. Face coverings are required, and of course you have to provide sanitizer. But the one thing that is very, a lot of these things are town by town. We're Andrew Cuomo is leading the charge on this, as you all know. But there are certain things that are specifically town decisions, and our playgrounds are open. And that's a town decision, you know, so not all the towns have done that, but a lot of them have. And but based on, you know, residents being respectful down there, we decided to go ahead and open it up, take the tape off. So the playgrounds in Unionville are open if you want to bring your children in. And again, please be cautious and keep that 6-foot physical distance. The last thing I wanted to tell you from the county, and this is a message that we will take to the individual businesses, but Dutchess County Office for the Aging, they're going to have a group of senior picnics, and they are inviting businesses to submit a lunch menu bid. They have a menu that they're recommending, and they want any local, like, you know, we have the Burbank Deli, maybe the Iron Furnace, maybe Barbecue It, I don't know, but anybody that may want to submit a quote, I want to mention it out loud, that they can go online and look at the lunch menu, put in their own quote, and they could get chosen. And there's going to be 12 of these picnics. So it could be a nice piece of business for somebody. And it's going to be curbside, but it's going to be 12 where they're going to be actually delivering packages of lunches. So I think the businesses in our town should take a look at that. That is on the county website, Dutchess County Office for the Aging, request for price quote. Just go in, it's a fillable PDF. You can do it right online. Okay. So I think those were about all the updates I had, the COVID-19 from the county. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to board member reports. But before I do that, John Welsh, Councilman Welsh, is on some important business out of the state, so he's not here tonight. And our town attorney is not here tonight, but he will be with us in July. Okay, so at that note, or with that message, I will turn it over to any councilman want to make a report. I'll start, Councilman Derlin.
I'm good at this time.
Okay, Councilman Frazier.
Nothing.
Councilman McGivney.
Just like to remind people, try to support your local businesses, restaurants here around town. We got some outdoor eating venues, which are very nice. So I think it's important to help them get back going again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, at this point, Town Highway Superintendent report. Glad to have you with us, Mr. Caving.
So I'd like to let you all know that we finished all of our major road projects for this year already. We paved the roads that we were scheduled to pave. We also oil and chipped roads that were paved last year and year prior. It's important that the people in the town understand the reasoning behind the oil and chip. It's very similar to a regular asphalt residential driveway. I'm sure that people that have those asphalt driveways understand that they put the sealer down. The town puts the sealer down, but then we also put a layer of stone down on top of the sealer. That's considered a wear layer, so that it helps to protect the asphalt below when it holds the sealer down. So I have gotten some comments from a few of the residents on the roads that we did do the oil and chip on. They have to understand that it's necessary for the longevity of the road, and that's why we do it. Hopefully next year we can do more, but I want to especially take care of the most recent roads that have been paved before they start going bad. The roads that were paved in probably the last 10 years to current, we're going to try to get those sealed maybe next year. I am trying not to spend my entire budget because, as Supervisor mentioned, we don't know what the budget for next year is going to be. So I'm going to hold some money and roll over into next year's budget. The other things we are doing, we have done our first go around with the mower on the roadsides. Scheduled to do it again probably the week after next. We started, I also got some calls about when we're coming around to do the road sweeping in the subdivisions. We started that today. The reason we delayed that is because we were trying to get all of our major road projects done behind us, and so we can move forward with the smaller projects. We've been fixing potholes, shouldering some of the roads. We are diligently trying to shoulder as many of the roads that have been paved in the past several years. It's important that we get that shoulder material against the newer asphalt so that the shoulders don't break. That material supports the shoulder of the road, the blacktop, so that's necessary to happen. So we're working on doing that. That's our progress news. Something that some of the board members are aware of, some may not be, is that our salt shed is in dire need of a roof. I have got one bid so far. I've got two other contractors that are trying to bid it. The issue that I'm having getting contractors to bid it is because construction is open back up. Everybody's crazy busy trying to get back on their feet. So hopefully we can get another two bids on that job. The other thing that is relatively good news to that is I've gone through our inventory of equipment. Some has been sitting for multiple years, not in use. I put it on international auctions, and to date, we have a bid on all the equipment total of almost $10,000. The auction is over tomorrow night, so that could be as much as maybe half of the roof project. So that's what I'm kind of hoping that we can, as the highway department, maybe be able to fund half of that ourselves, and then the other half would have to come out of the highway budget. But that's what we're doing.
Okay, we'll be talking about that too, but did you tell them the good news about this CHIPS money was, the reimbursement was submitted?
I didn't want to say because you never confirmed that it went through.
Oh, I think she, I haven't heard from her.
Tell me that.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard from her. Oh, that's good.
I don't want to put good news out.
Yeah, well, we did submit it, I can tell you that, but you're right, we haven't heard from her, so after the meeting's over, I better go check my email.
To the tune of 101,000 plus.
Well, 142, our total budget for CHIPS was 142,000, so between the three programs, you're right, 101 was the CHIPS.
itself.
But the good news is that they did a wonderful job of getting the paving done early, and it allowed us to submit the paperwork for CHIPS. And not everybody's in that position. They're waiting to see if it's going to get cut or not. And the message that you got, the paper, and I checked it out on one of my supervisors and mayor's calls. Nobody really knows. They think that it may be fully funded, but the letter said it could go down by varying percentages, at the most 20. But when I called the transportation office, because Ed and I are both doing this at the same time, so we want to make sure we both know. And then if one year he's got to do it and he can't do it, the finance office can do it for him and vice versa, you know, that kind of thing. So anyway, they're saying that they did not, the transportation department has not heard of any cuts. So, you know, I don't know, maybe the word doesn't get around so fast in Albany.
First in line for the reimbursement is probably a good position.
Yeah, there was a rumor it was going to be first in, first out. Yeah, very good. So, but I'm checking as soon as the meeting's over now that you said that. Check with the Department of Transportation. But that is really good news. Thank you very much. Okay, now we have any town clerk report?
Hello. I'm sorry. So not a lot going on in the world of town clerk, but I did want to let everyone know. Sorry, should I wait? Okay. I just wanted to let everyone know we did order a new flag for On the Green as the old one needed to be retired. Recycling center permits are at 427 for resident and 344 for non-resident. It is not too late to buy one. You can still utilize the center for the rest of the year. And other than that, I've been helping, as Betsy mentioned, with the Pay It Forward program with Iron Furnace. And as Supervisor Mush also mentioned, if you do have someone in mind that cannot get out of the house, this is a great opportunity for us to be able to bring them a nice warm meal twice a week. So please call the town hall and we'll be happy to help.
Thank you very much for that. At this point, we have some reports from our committees or departments that aren't going to be in attendance. We can start with the Parks Department if you'd like, Councilman Frazier. Thank you for reading that from Jake Gosnell.
Okay, as submitted, the work on number 2 Time Moore Park Road has been completed and we've received the CO. On top of that, the electrical service has been upgraded and the security system has been installed. We have started some projects on the boathouse. The door has been secured again after some vandalism. Tom took on replacing some of the stones in the chimney and repointing. It looks great. We have a few more things on deck that will spruce the place up a bit more. We've started to remove the chain link fence around the small baseball field. The fencing was old and in terrible shape and was becoming dangerous in certain spots. We will be leaving the backstop in the first and third baseline, so the field will be totally usable and match the bigger field next to it. Will be a big improvement. We moved some extra picnic tables over to Godfrey Park, so if anyone wants to get some food from Barbecue 82 or Iron Furnace, there's space at the park to sit and enjoy. The bleachers that are near the baseball fields in the park are in need of a scrape and paint, and the bleachers at the Equestrian Center are in serious need of paint, so this is the next project on the list. Power washing of buildings will start soon. We will start at Town Hall and then move down to number 8 Time Moore Park Road and try to keep them on a bit of a rotation to keep everything looking nice and fresh. And, oh no, there's more in the back. Progress has been made in getting the park building and the town hall ready for reopening, and we should be all set when the time comes. We've had a few rounds of tree cleanup recently, including this past Monday. We had a big tree come down in the parking lot behind number 8 Time Moore Road. I want to thank Ed, the highway superintendent, for the great communication and use of the chipper. It's great that there's been an uptick in people getting out and enjoying the park and being outdoors. I would just ask that people please remember to use the garbage cans that are spread out throughout the park, or take garbage with them, please. That's the end of the report.
Well, I have a loud voice. Did you hear me?
Nobody's got their mics on.
Oh, okay. So let me give you the Recreation Department report real quick. And that is that obviously there's no programming over the summer. So the staff is working hard on a operation manual for all of Parks and Recreation, which will be comprised of different modules, one of which is the staff manual for the summer camp and for ASP, the after school program, etc. It's going to be a terrific book by the end of the summer. And that's the project for the very few people we have working. In addition to that, we may try to start TGTT, the full day. Thank goodness there's time more a few days before the normal, last week of August, if there's demand for it, depending on the metrics, COVID-19 metrics and how we're doing around the town and the county. Because some people have already started asking since we're not having summer camp, and that would give some families some relief. So we're going to keep our eye on all those metrics and take a look at getting that started a little bit earlier if it's possible. At this point, I'm going to ask Councilman Derlin to please share George Kolb's building report.
Okay. As you are aware, the office has continually run its duties during the COVID-19 outbreak. Remote access from my home computer has and is being done to facilitate building permits, complaints, and inspections scheduled. To ensure my safety and following New York State protocol, I have been using my personal vehicle to perform inspections. I have put in place safety measures during these inspections and contact with the public. In addition, having put in place online permitting processes as well as payment has made the transition during this issue much more seamless than many other townships. One, masks and gloves are used on all inspections. Two, applicants and contractors are requested to be located outside of the building to be inspected and social distancing preserved at all times during these inspections. All scheduling, inspection requests, reporting, and complaints handled are completed via email. Most payments have been completed through the town webpage portal. Commercial business has been instructed on all protocols for reopening and have obeyed to this point. All restrictions for operation are being followed. I'm happy to report. Building permits have been steady through this period and have largely picked up in the past several weeks and will be serviced as they come in. All work has been completed on number 2 Time Warner Park, and the CO will be issued shortly. Complaints have also been addressed as they come in through email. We've done our best during these difficult times to service all the town of Unionville residents. We'll continue these efforts as always. Please contact my office with any further questions or concerns. Respectfully submitted, George A. Cole.
Thank you very much. And I will say, the building department here runs as a real service to the residents. It's not supposed to be a moneymaker, it's just. I just would like to say that George Cole does a great job. I think just to reiterate, he does the servicing of the residents comes first here, and George has done a great job. And I'll try to remember to turn that microphone back on. All right, that does it for the department reports. Thank you, everyone. Now we're going into old business. The Unionville, the ELP, East Light Partners Unionville Solar Development on Route 55 will begin construction in August, which is very good news. Our reopening of town government plan, we've been through all the details with the justices on the courtroom and on the town hall. We've got a small committee working on the town clerk and Jake Gosnell, our park manager, and myself, and we have support with Wendy, Fred. We're trying to get everything purchased and in here to make all of these different departments open and operate. And our plan is to open on July 1st. We have been cautioned about letting people come into the building without, and so the meaning residents, they want us to continue with the appointment only. So let residents call us, make an appointment. They have to come in with a mask on. But the good news is that by the 3rd week of July, when we have our regular town board meeting, we can have, we have to stay 6 feet apart in the town meeting room. And then we have to figure out how many chairs we can fit in to also meet with the protocol. And Jake and I measured it the other day. I mean, it's not very many chairs along that back row if we're going to keep separated, but we will be able to allow the public to come in should anybody want to come. So that is great news. So by July, the 3rd week of July, we will be almost back to normal, just pretty spread out. Now, as far as new business, this topic is interesting and is on for discussion for tonight so that we can hopefully solicit some, I mentioned this in the email I sent you today, the building permits and land use applications need to have term limits or some sort of way to set them up differently so that people are more motivated to do what the town would really want them to do. And I'll say, for example, and we had a work session here today with the attorney and the engineer here because of a solar development that an outside corporation is coming into and wanted to discuss. And they asked, and I was sitting in on it because they requested it. And so all of us, as soon as that work session was over with the solar company, we talked about this. George came to me yesterday and said he needs some relief from I'm going to talk about building permits first, and then we'll talk about land use. And Kevin, I'm sure you can help me with that one. From a building permit perspective, the town of Unionville, you get a building permit, it's good for 1 year. And then a year later, George will send you a letter saying it's about to expire and you have 30 days to get a renewal. And the renewal is 50% of the price of the initial one. And we have some building permits that are renewing and renewing and renewing and not getting closure. So what we discussed today was probably the way it's set up isn't motivating people in the right way. And some residents have called to complain that they think some people are, keeping the building permits open just because, they're not coming over and knowing how important it is. It is really important to close them because when George goes to, you get that, when you go to sell your house and he comes to see if your file is caught up, if you haven't paid permits along the way, then the policy here is that you're going to pay 3 times that amount when you check out. So it's really important to stay up with those building permits. The discussion today was considering not having a 50% discount, which is cheap enough to where some people just renew every year for many years. And now, neighbors complain about it and that sort of thing. But to have the 1 year permit and then the second, you have a 1 year renewal only. So they get a 2 year time frame to get whatever their project is done. Not have a discount. And if they have to go beyond that, they have to come back in and sign up for a brand new permit. And I think that the thought was that the price should go up, because even if the price goes up a little bit, it's motivating enough to not have people do it. And that's, Jim Nelson shared with us what other people have done in certain towns. And I think motivating people to get it done in a concise time period is what the goal is. And that's what Tom Harvey and he had seen elsewhere. So that being said, why don't we talk about building permits to see if anybody has anything that they want to add to that? Because I think everybody here has had some experience with that. Something to give George some relief so we can get these closed and get people to move on. Any thoughts?
I would agree with that completely.
The 1 year and then maybe.
That people definitely kick the can on closing out their permit for one reason or another, but give them incentive by giving them a discount. So,
Right.
I agree. We should motivate them a little bit. We had this issue on the land use side, too. I know not on that yet. The land use side.
Well, go ahead. Yeah, talk about the land use.
Permits, hoping, I was on land use up until the end of last year, and there were permits that were open from 2014. They would submit an application, then kind of fall away on the wayside. Something came up that was maybe not favorable, or it was a lot of work or expensive work in order to keep the project going. They would kind of disappear. Some would disappear for months. Some would disappear for months. I mean, some would disappear for years. We had multiple
That's
applications that just kind of flailed for forever. And it's hard as a board member because then you have to basically almost restart the whole process again in your head, because you have notes and you have all the applications and things, but it's much easier when you're moving along and everything's fresh and
well, and the other thing is
a decent timeline to be able to retain all the information that keeps getting thrown at you every month, as opposed to disappearing for a year and coming back.
so if you're on the planning board, you correct me where I'm wrong here. If you're on the planning board and somebody was before the planning board 4 years prior and it didn't get abandoned, or there was no denial, or nothing happened. They just didn't come back.
Yeah.
Then when they come back, let's say they came by 4 years later, they get on the agenda again.
Yeah.
Do they don't resubmit the whole package? They just want to pick up where they left off?
I mean, it depends. A lot of times they had to go home and do homework, They had to either go to their engineer and get something sorted out, or there was some other issue that needed to be addressed.
Yeah.
But other times, especially in the case where code enforcement was telling them to come to us, and they were reluctant to come to us because they knew that was going to pose issues for them, then they would come in and do the initial presentation and then disappear for a while. And then, then George would kind of catch on and say, you need to get before these guys and get your approvals. And then they would come in and then disappear again. So, they would just kind of come in just to kind of keep everybody at bay.
Right.
Well, but not necessarily be actually coming in to seek a real approval. It was just kind of like a pony show, you know?
Right. Well, today our land use attorney, Jim Nelson, was recommending,
Yeah.
and he's going to check on a couple of details for us because it was just a discussion. This is why I was trying to call some of you guys today to talk to you about it too, because it came up kind of suddenly. But he was thinking that from a land use perspective, they get on the agenda and then they have 6 months. His suggestion was to give them 6 months and then tell them they have to come back before the board. And Pat Cardellini, our current chair,
Yep.
is here, and he also he liked the sound of this. And they have to come back before before the board when the 6 months is up to tell them, are they abandoning it, are they canceling it, or are they, and then one way or another something happens every 6 months.
Yeah, that's smart.
And then that way they can just close it and move on, or people will. And then if they pause on their project and want to do it a year later, they can resubmit everything, all the packages.
Yeah.
So they were kind of endorsing 6 months, but for the permits, I did get a chance to talk to John Welsh about it today. And Councilman Welsh was saying he thought that it was great that if we went with a 1 year permit like we have today, and whatever the price is, have no discount for the second year. And but every now and then there is hardship, like somebody either, somebody has a stroke, or somebody has financial, the rug falls, the floor falls out from under them financially. And there are hardships, and we were talking about how to handle the hardships, and nobody wants to put Mr. Kolb in the middle of trying to. So John said, why don't we have the 1 year plus a 1 year extension? And his suggestion was, and then anybody that wants a hardship beyond that has to come before the town board, write in and request permission to get an extension or to change it. They can come before the board, they can come right here and talk to the board, or they can send something in writing and then the board can discuss it with them. But he said, let the town board be the decider on whether or not they get the extension that they maybe ask. Maybe they ask for a second extension and we're going to do away with extensions, that type of thing. That way we keep George out of the middle of it. And if it, and he's not going to be trying to, be judge and jury over cases. He doesn't need that. It's kind of a hard position for him to be in.
Yeah.
So those are additional thoughts.
You can also think about the scale of the project too. Put it over a year. Yeah.
Right.
Building, say somebody's building a condo complex or something like that, not that it's really gonna happen here, but.
Yeah.
Or a large
That would
house.
take longer than
I mean,
12 months.
Somebody's building a large house. It's certainly reasonably to take over a year. So the scale of the project could probably play into something we need to think about.
So that might be like Poughkeepsie has a 2-year permit.
Yeah. I'm just trying to envision having to pay, telling an applicant, somebody's building maybe a large one that they have to pay again.
12 months later, and there's no way to.
But they've been making progress the whole time.
That's a great idea.
You know,
Okay.
I'm just wondering if that's something to think about as part of it.
Yeah. Okay.
No, we're.
Councilman, give me any, do you like what you heard from those? I'm just sharing you today's comments, but
Yeah, I'm in agreement that, some people will lay stuff out. Trying to unmute myself here.
Just push your space to go.
Yeah, you want me to just come out?
Okay, I think you got it. Okay, there it is. Yeah, I'm in agreement. Some people do drag their feet, with renewals and keeping permits open for whatever reason. They can stretch out for years. I would say, I think to bring up the cost on a renewal would push people to close a project. But again, like Kevin said, if you have a very large project that, could take 2 or 3 years to complete, and they're making progress all along, you don't want to, tell them you can only go 2 years and that's it.
well, right now it's 1 year.
There have to be
They're
exceptions.
proposing 1 year plus a 12-month.
month.
So it's the idea of the scale sounds great. And
Yeah,
yeah,
there would have to be exceptions, for certain projects.
yeah, we don't get that many really big ones, but we would like to.
I know a few places in town where, things are half built and they're been like that for 15 years.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there are some people that reapply every year for that length of time for a permit.
Yeah, well, whatever.
I just did do that. Isn't that sort of like a tax?
Yes, in some cases, I think you're right.
Tax deal? Right. You know, if you don't have a CO, then you don't have a taxable. taxable space.
Well, I guess it works on a percentage basis, like if you were 20% finished or 40% finished.
Right.
As you make progress, then you're assessed that percentage of your taxes, but you shouldn't be, without a CO, you shouldn't be living in it, right? Do we have a lot of empty ones? We probably have some empty ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, when you get a permit and it's done on a percentage basis, it's not good for the town. Especially if they're hanging out there for 5, 7, 10 years and it's not.
I mean, mostly, I mean, the spirit of what we're talking about, is trying to clean up projects and keep the town clean and.
Move forward,
Yeah.
close them.
Yeah.
The neighbors, I'll tell you another thing, we've been getting neighbors complaining. So, you know, for exactly what you're saying, it's the right thing to do for the residents too. Yeah, so,
Right thing to do as part of your own community.
right. All right, Councilman Frazier, any thoughts? Are you,
Yeah, I'd like to do a little more research on what is actually happening here. That I don't disagree with the concept, but I want to get more details before I make any decision.
right, well, we have no proposal on the table. And it's great if you could share those details when you get them, that would be great. And then maybe at the next meeting, I think depending on which way we would look to go, then it might be a code change. Otherwise, it's a fee schedule change. So, well, although the 50%, the 50% is in the code. So we've got, you know, we could start that process after we've done the research and compared notes with other towns, and then we can move forward. But it would help George an awful lot. And I think, as you're saying, it's good for the community. So thank you for listening to today's comments. And if you have any additional thoughts, send them around on email and we'll get it worked up for our next meeting. Okay, so at this point, we have the resolution that we discussed in our work session. And I will go ahead and read it because nobody else has really had the time. I'd like to introduce the following resolution, Resolution 20-25, authorizing waiving local law to permit outdoor dining by food service establishments. Whereas New York Executive Law, Section 24, authorizes the chief executive to promulgate local emergency orders upon a finding that the public safety is imperiled by the event of a public emergency or in the event of a reasonable apprehension of immediate danger thereof, to protect life and property and to bring an emergency situation under control. And whereas a state of emergency was hereby declared in the County of Dutchess effective on March 13, 2020 by Emergency Executive Order Number 2 of 2020 due to a case of COVID-19 being confirmed in the county. And whereas County Executive Mark Molinaro, quote, in order to support the reopening of food service establishments and subject to federal, state, and constitutional, statutory, and regulatory limitations, as well as state and county health and sanitary laws, rules, and regulations, ordered that all cities, towns, and villages within the territorial limits of the County of Dutchess may reopen food service establishments without regard to the strict adherence to local land use laws, rules, and regulations, subject to the terms and conditions as determined by each individual city, town, and village. Whereas the town board of the town of Unionville agrees to waive adherence to the local law entitled Site Plan Review and Approval, Town Code Section 21061, in order to fully support the economic recovery of each of the town's food service establishments and to enable each of them to open and operate outdoor spaces without delay. Therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Unionville hereby declares support for the local emergency order number 12 that took effect on June 9th, 2020, and will remain in effect until removed by the county executive or the town board of Unionville. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to make an amendment to the fourth whereas. And I would like it to read, whereas the town board of the town of Unionville agrees to waive adherence to and any fees associated with the local law entitled Site Plan Review and Approval. And
It's a moot point because there aren't any fees.
no, I just would like to have that.
But there aren't any fees.
I would like to suggest that as an amendment, please. I just need a second on that.
I'll second it.
So now we can vote on the amendment.
Okay, I'm not sure that's the proper way of doing it, but we can
It
do
is a
that.
proper way to do it.
Not necessarily, no.
It is.
Um,
It's not my first ride around this day.
Well, yeah, okay, so why don't we have a discussion about this amendment? Why don't you explain to us why you want to include something that's not required anyway?
Well, I just would like our businesses to know that we support them and 100%, and that we will not collect any fees in association with them setting up this outdoor dining service. I think it's a good signal to our local businesses and our residents as well, that we're working with these folks so they can get back on their feet again.
Well, that sounds really great. What, could we say a little, maybe a slight, just say there aren't any fees, so say, if there were fees, they would be waived. If at any and all fees, if there were any, we would waive them, or something to show that there, because there aren't any, it sounds gratuitous. So why don't we say that we have decided not to impose fees, as many other jurisdictions have? And not make it sound gratuitous, because we know that there aren't fees, so. Agrees to waive adherence to the local law entitled and any and all, and we're waiving the opportunity to impose fees. How about that? Because that's really what we're doing, as other jurisdictions have. Because it's a very good reason. I think the way you stated that sounded great, Steve. But since there aren't any, and it sounds gratuitous, why don't we just say, and we've decided not to impose any fees, as many other, we don't have to say as many other jurisdictions have, to fully support them. Waive adherence to local law entitled site plan review and approval in order to fully support site plan approvals, town code section 210, and any and all fees as, how about as have been instituted in other municipalities?
I don't know that we need to refer to that.
All right, can you help me shorten that? And any and all fees,
And I agree with you, just say the opportunity.
use the word opportunity.
We the opportunity or waive the.
Oh, and any, okay, waive the opportunity.
Waive the option to impose fees for this.
Option's good, yeah, either one, okay,
Waive the
option.
option to impose any fees for this, what's it called? Permit.
Okay, so the town board of the town of Unionville agrees to waive adherence to the local law entitled site plan review and approval, town code section 21061, and waive the option to impose any and all fees in order to fully support the economic recovery. ...
You know, fees that normally would be.
Well, what she's saying is there aren't any normal fees, but we have the
Site
option.
plan review, I'm just saying.
We have the
Site
option.
plan review, you just say, I will waive all, any, fees that we know, I guess.
Well, we're waiving the option to impose any and all fees
Yeah.
in order to fully support the economic recovery. So we get Steve's point, which is a really good point,
Yeah.
but we're also being straight about the fact that, okay. All right, so could we, I'm going to read it and then somebody second Steve's amended amendment. Okay, whereas the town board of the town of Unionville agrees to waive adherence to the local law entitled site plan review and approval, town code section 21061, and waive the option to impose any and all fees in order to fully support the economic recovery of each of the town's food service establishments, ... Is there a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. No,
Now we vote
Nays?
on the resolution.
yeah, that's a great amendment, thank you. All right, now, Clerk Casey, may we have a roll call vote, please, for the resolution?
Sure, Councilman Frazier,
Aye.
Councilman Derland,
Aye.
Councilman McGivney,
Aye.
Councilman Welsh is absent, and Supervisor Moss.
Aye. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you for that amendment, Steve. That sounds really good. Resolution 2025 passes unanimously, which is, has been a great thing. And I think they're all happy to be open. At this point, I'd like to ask somebody to make a motion that we approve all the payments of all the bills, which is that all we have on the table this month, are vouchers and bills that need to be paid.
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
All in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. We will pay all the bills. Did you have any questions submitted?
No, I didn't have any questions submitted.
Okay, there's questions. Okay, at this point, we're going to move into executive session. We have to discuss a potential litigation. And this is involving an issue with the county. There's not going to be any, action taken, but it is something that we have to talk about. So I'm going to mute everybody and we'll go into executive session. And then when we return, we will be receiving a motion to adjourn. And then I would say that to remind everybody at home, if you don't stick around for us to come back and adjourn, that on July 16th, our regular agenda meeting, we'll be back to a regular, although we have to be socially, physically 6 feet apart, we will be, some people can come to town hall if they so choose. Okay? All right, let's go into executive session. And